Hey folks, welcome to Paradise Lost number 50, 5-0, covering the Paradise attacks. Tens of thousands of people are still unaccounted for, some 6 weeks after the event, and no one seems to care. It's been swept under the rug, but we're not going to let it die. We're helping people up there. Your donations are helping, but it's a very important document that I found. This is from Thursday, 2009, October 29th. Geomantic Information Systems. Gematria is the layout of sacred geometry, sacred numbers. Numbers have frequency, have meanings, they have energies, and they have power, according to the occult. And the occult have been using the dark magic for a long time. Magic can be used for positive. White magic can be used for dark magic. But here we're going to go over the dark magic. So this is about Chico. Chico means man, obviously, in Spanish. But also Chico is the closest town to Paradise, where allegedly 52,000 people got out of the fires and fled to Chico. But we're having a really, really, really hard time finding all those people. They're not there. So, but getting into this, I'll put this in the text so you can read, you can watch it as well. And then I've got some documentary about the layouts of Sacramento and San Francisco, which is validating what we're presenting here. Also, the full video you see here, it's been taken down. They don't want us to know this stuff, but let's get it on the record here. Chico, California, like Santa Rosa. Chico like Santa Rosa. Santa Rosa was attacked a year and almost 1 month before the attacks in Paradise, is a beautiful small California city that enjoys a mild Mediterranean climate. Chico is tucked in neatly on the east face of the interface of the Sierra Nevadas and the Cascade Ranges. It says, quote, the City of Roses with a silhouette of John Bidwell, Chico's founder, on the original crest of Chico. City of Roses, Satan's Rose, Bohemian Grove, Santa Rosa. You getting it yet? Santa Claus, Nassau, Satan. The city of Chico is also a model of occult or Masonic planning that is orientated on the ley line latitude of ancient origin and symbolism. Chico is set up as kind of a mystery school historical veneration of the Sumerian goddess Ishtar. The daily horoscopes of each structure or the point within the 64-block square area can be plotted using the street plan. A form of Enochian chess can be played on the streets of Chico. The geomantic arrangement of the city can be used for many different purposes in the minds of those who believe in its power. Remember, billionaires use astrology, not millionaires. Chico is not alone in this type of occult historical plan or arrangement. Other cities and towns in the U.S. are part of the similar local systems that are part of a larger one. The city appears to have been placed by later authorities on a grid created by Thomas Jefferson, much in the way as Indianapolis, Indiana seems to have been planned. In fact, the geomantic layout of Chico is stunningly similar to that of Washington, D.C., though on a much smaller scale. What are the odds? Placements in cities and monuments in preordained pattern or shape as a form of geomancy intended to divine or perform any of a number of occult means hidden, functions. Talismans may be placed at locations along the lines for effect. As a coincidence, John Bidwell's life and pursuits echoed those of Jefferson in many ways. Many individuals involved in Gnostic wisdom seem to value emulating figures from the past. Even though only a small portion of the geomantic diamond of Chico is within the grid created by Jefferson, the town was still placed with regard to that grid. The Chico diamond is set close to the edge of the existing township grid so that a point in the middle of the diamond at Chestnut and 5th is where the intersection of 4 sections would be if the grid was extended to the west. In this way, the diamond of Chico is plumb with Jefferson's township grid. Remember Freemasons, they like to plumb things, squaring the circle, compass and square. On a much smaller scale, the city plaza in Chico is a miniature of the mall in D.C. Why? And is designed for the same esoteric or ancient purpose. In Egyptian terms, the city plaza is a shem, or an interdimensional travel device, similar to the ones in the movies Stargate and Dune. In Roman culture, the Chico City Plaza would be termed the Axis Mundi, or axis of the world. If the Roman tradition of the Axis Mundi was adhered to religiously, John Bidwell, the founder of Chico, would be buried under the Chico City Plaza with artifacts from the parent city. That's like Albert Pike is buried in the mausoleum in the Scottish Rite Freemason building right directly across from, in Washington, D.C., across from the Capitol building. This is how they roll, folks. The middle of central portion of the Chico City Plaza is found with a mosaic of the earth in its basin. The earth actually represented in the axis mundi. John Biddle's design of the city plaza venerated both Egyptian and Roman themes. We're under Roman Latin law. It used to be named Rome, Maryland before it was Washington, D.C. The White House is named after Archbishop Andrew White, the first Archbishop Roman Catholic in the United States. Potomac used to be called the Tiber River. Rome. Romance. So, Washington, D.C. and Chico share in common their use of ancient ley lines as baselines in their designs. Ley lines are energy fields of earth, power centers, where a lot of pagan sites were placed, where the Christian churches were put on top of them. Energy fields. It's all about frequency, vibration, and energy. In Washington, D.C., it uses the Lisbon Rose Line. There's that rose again. Mid-38th parallel, while the streets of Chico sit atop the Mason-Dixon Line. And there's the numbers 12, 7, 13. The Mason-Dixon line bisects the block at the base of the diamond at 9th, 8th, Cherry, and Orange in a perfect diagonal. The streets were perfectly orientated on the Mason-Dixon line. The Mason-Dixon line is also known as the Dragon Line. This line is steep in esoteric, occult, and Christian symbolism. The peak of Mount Ararat, Turkey, is right on the latitude of the Mason-Dixon line. Mount Ararat is both a component of the latitude and longitude system defined by the spatial relationships of the pyramids and the hexagon at Baalbek. Baalbek's where they have the huge monoliths, and the biblical resting place of Noah's Ark. The city of Indianapolis also has a much larger plaza orientated on the Mason-Dixon line. I'll take a look at this here. So Mount Ararat, here, let's show you a picture of Mount Ararat. This is where they said that the Noah's Ark landed when the water subsided and he found land after the dove came back with a piece of leaf or a fig or something. And then this is the picture of paradise here. And traveling as the crow flies, it's maybe 40 miles to Mount Ararat. And then you have Magalia, M-A-G-A, Make America Great Again. You have Helltown here. You have Paradise. And then we have Chico. So it's all part of their scheme, folks. This is long term in designing, it appears. The designs of many civic parks and plazas are similar to Sumerian, Sicilian, Egyptian, and Babylonian plazas that were said to facilitate travel to and from another dimension, a portal. The designs of these arrays have been evolved out of druidic nematodes or sacred groves of trees. Some believe the portals are to extract energy from people or let in demons from another dimension. Any anthropologist, archaeologist, or architectural historian trained in this culture sphere will immediately identify these arrays as reproductions or copies, and Chico is no exception. There is some evidence that there are groups of people who still believe in the esoteric and occult uses of these monuments. Chico is home to a population of such people. The one in Chico is very small compared to places like Indianapolis and Nashville. Nashville is a huge place for child trafficking. The Veterans Memorial Mall in Indianapolis, Indiana, has two arrays within its design, very similar to the City Plaza in Chico, complete with towers or pylons in similar orientations to the towers at the Senator Theater and Diamond Hotel, as well as the four-square Maltese cross designs of the plaza itself. The Maltese cross is the Knights of Malta, the Red Cross. Rothschild, Red Shield. Columbus, Red Cross. British, Red Cross. Indian Tea Company, Red Cross. Red, white, and all of the Mason-Dixon lines, just like Chico. These shapes and themes are common to many different cultures around the world. The plaza in Indianapolis is situated wholly within the area of 13 in the astrologically significant part of Jefferson's grid. Thomas Jefferson was a Freemason too, folks. That's been divulged by people in the Freemasonry. It's a little hard to find, but we have a lot of evidence that that is true. The layout of the core of Chico is that of an 8x8 celled chessboard. That's the Enochian chessboard. This area includes a downtown and the Chico City Plaza. The square was then rotated to the north and is viewed as a diamond on the map. Curiously, the diamond is tilted about 5 degrees to the east. The slight tilt may have been affected to align the diamond 90 degrees to the direction of the flow of Big Chico Creek Canyon. Alignment to the natural formations is an important concept in geomancy. The southern tip or apex of Chico also points directly to the Sutter Buttes to the south. Bidwell Park occupies much of the lower Big Chico Creek Canyon and was donated by Mrs. Bidwell to the city. Parts in the original movie Robin Hood were also filmed here. The chessboard-like type of magic square design is popular in Kabbalistic and occult circles. In addition, chess is the favorite game of the mythical goddess Isis or Ishtar. Remember, Isis is the feminine. Isis is Persephone on top of the Washington Capitol. Isis is the feminine that is created by the male dominance to be destroyed. They're the creation and destruction principles. The male sperm does not die during his lifetime, yet a woman at menopause loses birth-giving qualities. So the males, the men in black, decided that we must create and destroy the feminine divine. And that's what they do. And Washington, D.C. is between Virginia and Maryland, the Virgin Mary. Washington, D.C. is created to be destroyed. Truth be told, sorry to say. The square would also match the Queen Square on the chessboard. The intersection of 9th Street and Orange Avenue comprise the base of the diamond. The latitude of the Mason-Dixon or Dragon line transects the block in a perfect east to west diagonal. What are the odds? The eastern tip is the intersection of Main and 9th Street. Interestingly, a series of streets within Chico Diamond spell out the name of the city. Chestnut, Hazel, Ivy, Cherry, and Orange Streets, the first letters spell Chico. These streets are viewed in the correct orientation to read the name from north to south. An array of twin towers, Boaz and Joachim, if you know your Freemasonry, is typical in this type of geomantic arrangement involving reproduction of an Egyptian Shem or Tree of Life motif. Notice the Tree of Life motif is also on the new astronauts insignias. In Chico, the tower of the Senator Theater is even decorated as a staff of Enki or Ishtar and is topped by a diamond-shaped light. The second tower common to this arrangement is the cupola of the Diamond Hotel. In earlier incarnation, the building on the corner of 4th and Broadway had a tower attached to it. The corner diagonal to the tower of the Senator Theater to the east. Many other municipalities have veiled the true identity of the staff in other designs. Many state capitals, including Sacramento, have a mall meant as the same form of veneration. Here, take a look at this.
How's it going, guys? White Rabbit here. Today I'd like to talk to you about Sacramento, California. I lived in Sacramento for about a year, and when I recently went back to visit with my wife's family, I saw things from the perspective of someone who was aware of the esoteric meanings of certain things. Now, as I've talked about before, like in my Kennedy video, you can see these occult symbols everywhere. They are in buildings, they are in landmarks, and so on and so forth. So I suppose it's no surprise to me that we would see such blatant occult symbolism present at the state capital of California. This is downtown Sacramento. This is the Capitol building. But the thing that I really want to show you is just down the road a few blocks. You will see a golden bridge. Now, in case you guys are wondering, the reason I bring up this golden bridge is because to the occult, the Golden Gate, or the Golden Gate Bridge, has esoteric interpretations. It's basically the same thing as Jacob's Ladder, or the Stairway to Heaven. It symbolizes a transition from the dark to the light in pagan mythology. So we have a bridge with two pillars adorned with the two X's, aka the seal of Saturn, that is painted gold. In addition to the golden bridge, however, right next to it and across the river, you will find an office building in the shape of a pyramid with the capstone missing. Now, I'm sure many of you at this point can see where I'm going with this. Do you suppose that there is a relationship between what is going on here and the corruption of what's going on over here? Keep in mind that from the front steps of the Capitol building, you can see a straight line leading to this golden bridge. It is perfectly in line with the Capitol building. So not only can we see a clear link between the Capitol building and the Golden Bridge, but there is also some interesting numerology between the Golden Bridge and the pyramid-shaped office building. If you pull it up on a map and draw a line between the center of the bridge and the center of this pyramid-shaped office building and measure the angle, you will see that the angular relationship between these two is 66 degrees. In conclusion, there seems to be a direct esoteric association between the Capitol building in Sacramento, California, to the Golden Bridge, which itself is related to the pyramid-shaped office building with the capstone missing by a relation of 66 degrees. Now, folks, do you really think that this is all an accident? There you go, guys. Just a little bonus video for you. I figured I'd put a little more time into this one as kind of a sign of appreciation for those of you who have gone ahead and subscribed to this channel. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Thanks, and God bless.
Interesting, huh? I'm going to show you at the end of this. San Francisco is laid out along very similar ley lines with great intention as well, and that'll be after this. The Sacramento Array has an interesting pyramid-shaped building known as the Ziggurat building, which may align with the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan, Mexico. The municipal building and the parking lot is an extension of the linear array comprised of the city plaza. Fountain Municipal Building parking lot behind the municipal building is bisected by a sidewalk that defines the middle of the alignment. Many malls, remember the Washington Mall, are meant to portray this form. A small dome or rotunda is also present in the city plaza in the form of a bandstand. The top of the dome does have a curious little flagpole that resembles an antenna. Chico is interesting in that the motif of the Senator Theater reflects that of the dragon line and Ishtar veneration. Other designs present on the theater are two finely crafted dragons atop pillars guarding the entrance repetition of the dragon theme. A huge menorah is seen in relief around the balcony above the entrance to the theater. In addition, 4 gargoyle carvings face each other across the balcony. The tower at the center was placed there intentionally in conjunction with the design of the city plaza. The tower of the Diamond Hotel is almost perfectly diagonally orientated across the park from the Senator Tower. The twin towers are located, there's that number again, 0.13 miles apart and slightly offset from the middle of the plaza in order to create the interdimensional vortex right over the axis Mundi or middle of the city plaza. Any student of the mysteries would be fascinated by Chico. And here's some of the pictures here, folks, of what he's talking about. Here's the dragon. The Ishtar motif is repeated on the old Bank America or later Chevy's building on the corner of 2nd Street and Broadway. Ishtar is sometimes also referred to as Enki or Anissa. She is thought to be represented later by the Greek Athena and may be known in succession by the earlier incarnation of Zeus, Baal, or the Sumerian supreme horned deity known by many different names. The deities from ancient religions were often morphed into deities from the currently practiced or politically dictated religion. In this context, it is sometimes easier to identify the correct deity by their characteristics instead of physical appearance. This is part of the concept of why institutions are called, quote, mystery schools, end quote. For example, in a given era, Zeus and Baal's names were interchangeable or used in conjunction with each other. The cement reliefs that decorate both the main doorways and the top rim of the building are truly magnificent and display a triad of deities composed of Ishtar, Prometheus, and Hermes. The reliefs picture the Sumerian goddess Ishtar at the keystone position of each arch. In this depiction, she looks slightly angry. She is flanked by a relief depicting Prometheus giving fire to the man on both sides. Below that on both sides of the doorway is a man vaguely dressed in colonial attire, holding carpenter squares with a large cog behind him. A relief of Hermes is under the carpenter on both sides. This deity is frequently accompanied by representations of sea craft or ships, and this design includes a sailing vessel below the relief of Ishtar. Hermes is one of the few deities to maintain the same name in the transition from Egyptian or Sumerian pantheon to the Hellenistic Greek identity. Both the northwest and southwest facing entrances to the building are decorated this way. The decoration is reminiscent of the Ishtar gates of Babylon, Ur, and Sumeria. The entire top rim of the building is decorated with eagles, and each corner features a large stylized letter I. The diamond is viewed as a type of powerful pyramid by some of the building's location in Chico as a former bank is no coincidence. The powerful crystalline structure of the diamond is both a strong physical and symbolic structural element and is part of the geomantic landscape of Chico. The diamond also represents the esoteric magic principle of, quote, as above, so below, end quote, in the context of the pyramidal shape, the Diamond Hotel. The old Chevy's building, the Senator Theater, and the City Plaza have all been rebuilt or constructed in the last 10 years. Each building is part of the geomantic layout of Chico that was built over time. The owners of each structure are to be commended for their civil spirit and value of local history. These three structures have been beautifully restored by their owners. It is doubtful the founders of Chico were coven of witches. It is more likely that as Masons, New Sons of the Golden West, or other esoteric groups had a healthy appreciation for ancient beliefs, the so-called mystery schools, and the sacred geometry hidden in ancient architecture. Both the Senator Theater and the Old Banks were designed by the San Francisco Bay Area architect Timothy L. Pfluger. He was an early proponent of the Art Deco style, and artwork and design of both structures reflect his influence. His work can be seen in literally hundreds of buildings in California, including banks and other business structures. He was known in the Bay Area clubs of the Family and the Bohemian Club, and deemed the geomantic relationship of Chico to the Bohemian Club itself is somewhat shocking given recent interest in the happenings there. Bohemian Club is where the elite come out every year in July and have all their blood rituals and sick activities. The Family is an intriguing group who are rumored to be involved in many different spheres of society. Curiously, one important part of the geomantic system of Chico is being left to rot and molder. If a line is vectored from the northern tip of the diamond, formerly by the streets of Chico, through the southern tip and expanded south, the line passes directly over a large historical orchard estate known as the Palms, for its alignment of palm trees. Given its position in the plan in relation to geomantic diamond formed by the Chico streets, there is absolutely no doubt that this estate was built by someone who was aware of the significance of its actual physical position. The Palms is the Bohemian Grove of Chico. It is possible that the grounds of the Palms served as a Nemeton or Druidic place of worship in the geomantic layout of Chico. Today, the Palms is a peaceful and quiet spot with many mature palms, spruce, eucalyptus, and other exotic trees. The tower of the Senator Theater, tree planting in Chico, is tradition begun by John Bidwell and the originators of the Palms, intentionally created an arboretum that resembles a small jungle in the heat of the Sacramento Valley. Much of the vegetation at the estate is currently in its mature state. Recent occupants may have been mistaken for people who value the grounds for their romantic qualities, but plead abject ignorance when questioned on the subject. They were part of a substantial spiritual group with no deity worship at all. No one else knows if anyone else is aware of the occult history of the Palms. The grounds of the Palms, when viewed from the air, form the shape of a wooden pentagon over which a pentagram can be delineated using landmarks on the ground. Here it is on the right. The delineation is supported as a portion of the pentagram itself that matches the lines extending south from the Chico diamond. This line, in turn, displays the angle of offset from true north in relation to Jefferson's Township grid at the edge of Chico. These two elements give a compelling argument for the intentional construction of this property as part of the geomantic system that already existed. The location of the house and the grounds is meant to be symbolically or actually derive energy or power from the town itself, or play as some yet unknown role. A Nemeton is a kind of outdoor place of worship, usually in a wooded area. The original Orders of the Palms, constructed in 1910, planted a wide variety of exotic vegetation trees that created a cozy oasis in the middle of this large area. Nemetons are also in the forests of Britain, Europe, and Asia Minor, and are covered with locations known to the ancient Nemetons. Nemetons were commonly used in Druidic worship through the ages, including the places like Scotland and the rest of the British Isles. The geomantic setup of the palms does lend itself to the satanic, quote, circle work, end quote, with points of a large pentagram being clearly delineated on the ground. Some people employ these practices as a form of divination or positive worship. It is possible that the geomantic significance of the palms is no longer known to those who built the city plaza. It is possible that the Palms was part of some organization other than the Masons, such as the Knights of Columbus, or the New Sons of the Golden West, or the I.O.O.F. In either case, there is the United States, where you are allowed to practice any spirituality you care to within the limits of the law. If a Nemeton is where you worship, then it's okay in the USA. Geomancers believe the arrangements of monuments and objects placed in association with ley lines can be used for divination or to affect or draw energy from locations and people. The intentions of the geomancer can vary from divination to manipulation. In the eyes of those who believe this is to be used for good, bad, or personal reasons, some areas are chosen for the positive or negative qualities. Geomancy is an ancient art of which only the basics are known. Many additional uses in geomantic systems are hinted at the works of Cornelius Agrippa and other occult authorities. This is interesting when considering the deities and motifs displayed both on the Senator Theater and the old bank building are the same deities and themes worshipped and venerated at the Bohemian Grove and hinted at the Burning Man Festival itself, which basically has been taken over by the elite, not elite, they're light now because we're shining light on them, at Google, and the rest of them have taken over the Burning Man Festival, which is in the desert in Nevada across from Lake Tahoe. These themes and values have also played a much larger role in the philosophies and values of those who shaped the destiny of America that we're generally taught. Nematones are thought to be a part of Druidic worship that spans the ages. All of the local geomantic systems discussed here, Chico, Bohemian Grove, and Burning Man, City of Indianapolis, share one common thread, and that is the presence of a Nemeton placed in relation to a geomantic grid created by Thomas Jefferson. Chico fits the profile perfectly. Chico, Indianapolis, and Denver, the Denver airport, are all part of the Mason-Dixon Line Club. Another contemporary friend of Jefferson's, Alexander von Humboldt, also so many have played a role in the selection of Chico's, could have played a selection of the Chico's physical location. John Bidwell chose the location for Chico, and the California Geological Survey laid out Jefferson's township grid. John Bidwell was a Mason and undoubtedly designed the layout of the city. He later venerated von Humboldt by naming Humboldt Peak near one of the main roads in Chico. The Humboldt Road extended from Chico to Bidwell's silver mines in Idaho and passes the slopes of the Humboldt Peak. The Rancho section was within the township grid and does have some land with other astrologically significant areas. The 8x8 block diamond formed by the streets is half a mile square. Each block within the diamond is 365 feet square, proportionally matching the dimensions at the base of the Great Pyramid at Giza, Egypt. The entire layout of the downtown area, as well as each individual block, can be used to perform geomantic astrology, divination, and manipulation. The fact that the Diamond Street plan resembles a chessboard is no coincidence and infers that on some level, the city was a symbolic game board dedicated to the goddess Ishtar. The western entrance to Elm Court is flanked by pillars representing those made by the biblical figures of Boaz and Joachim. Both one set of names referred to these characters. The pillars were said to be inscribed with the tenets of math and technology so that they could survive the Great Flood. These pillars were said to have been found in King Solomon's temple and the Knights Templar themselves. These design elements are pleasing to the general public, but do have added significance to the Masons, Rosicrucians, and the New Order of Golden Dawn, and others. It's important to note that the occult being represented in these monuments is what's considered math and science today. Sacred geometry, folks. These practices were misunderstood and viewed as, quote, magic and evil by many who did not understand them in the past. In the 18th and 19th centuries, many scientists adopted pagan principles as a form of political statement, and many esoteric orders exist as a result of this philosophy. So Elm Court contains a structure which resembles horns. This sculpture may be interpreted as a veneration and representation of the Sumerian deity Baal, or Baphomet. Baal is interesting from a political standpoint as one of the deities cast as Satan by the Christian church. History reveals that this is a phenomenon as a way of controlling people by casting the opposition as being evil or morally questionable. Many revolutionary groups as late as the 18th century, including our Masonic founding fathers, George Washington and his Freemasonic regalia setting the cornerstone of the Capitol building, may have venerated deities traditionally shunned by the established church as a form of protest or disrespect, or they may be all on the same team. I'm adding that. History does support the notion, while many conservative Christian elements point to this as heresy, adultery, and Satanism, many are unaware of the duality and hidden meanings of the mystery schools. Baal is thought by many scholars to be the same deity worshipped by the Greeks by the name of Zeus. These type of misunderstandings may explain why some of the secrecy surrounding places like Bohemian Grove and Burning Man exist. If there is a class of people who worship this way today, even modern Christians might take offense, so secrecy is needed. It is equally as possible that the esoteric is a contrived cover for other activities, no doubt. It does seem to be confound those who have not taken the time to study what these symbols really mean. Worshipping anything with horns is a very, very scary concept to any Christian. As a Mason, there is absolutely no way that John Bidwell did not really realize he was settling on the exact latitude of the Mason-Dixon line. Sacramento, Davis, Santa Rosa, Bohemian Grove, and Lisbon, Portugal, the port of Grail, all sit on or close to the Lisbon Rose line to the south. John Bidwell chose to settle on the Dragon Line in order to establish the top of the pyramid delineated by landmarks in the Lisbon Rose line. Chico, Bohemian Grove, Santa Rosa, and Sacramento were all placed in a relative geomantic system created by Thomas Jefferson. It is plausible that Bidwell was sent specifically to the future location of Chico. So the big diamond or map of California from the geographical information system of your choice. The tip of the diamond formed the streets of Chico, extend the ray to the southeast to Roseville, California. Then extend the ray at the same angle to Lisbon Rose. Again, from the tip of the diamond at Chico, extend the ray to the west of Santa Rosa. Get the rose, folks. Remember the Men in Black or V for Vendetta? How V put the rose on the woman who was causing the pandemics with the viruses and the vaccines. Remember the rose he put on her? Red rose. This point in the Santa Rosa is marked by the western extent of the base of the smaller pyramid or capital, which is a triangular design element in the entrance to the Greek and Roman buildings. Triangles, pyramid. Pyramids have power. Delimited by the township grid and the Lisbon Rose line at the base. The larger pyramid means pyramid, middle fire, pyramid, encloses the entire capital of Sacramento, California. This is very similar to the geometric array of the boundaries and monuments that form a pyramid around Washington, D.C., using the Lisbon Rose line as a baseline. If the eastern ray of Chico pyramid is extended south, it transects Fresno and ends in San Diego. The pyramid may be turned into a diamond if the center line is extended down to San Jose, Silicon Valley. The southern tip of the diamond is very near Rosicrucian headquarters in San Jose. And here's the Rosicrucian Egyptian Museum that I've been to. It's pretty profound when you get inside this place. They got all sorts of occult stuff in there, including the Sphinx heads in the front. But this is what they're talking about at part of the end of the diamond that goes down into San Jose where Silicon Valley is. Moving on, the southern tip of the diamond is very near Rosicrucian headquarters in San Jose, as I just said. If the center line is extended south from there, it passes near Santa Cruz and ends just south of Monterey at the coast. If the eastern ray of the diamond is projected from Chico, it falls between Bohemian Grove and Santa Rosa. What are the odds? For such a small town, Chico's made the center of a very large geomantic power spot right next to paradise, folks. Right next to paradise. Old Daughters of the Golden West building, now Madison Beer Garden, interesting pentagon-shaped basement grate cover. The 8-block square area resembles a square rotated 90 degrees to form a diamond. So on, we see that Chico and Bilboa Park were created during the same era as the Tower Grove Park in St. Louis and the Druid Hill Park in Baltimore. What are the odds?
With these things in mind, let's explore the sacred geometry of San Francisco. Believe it or not, San Francisco is steeped in Egyptian symbolism. The original Michael H. DeYoung Museum that was built in 1894 had an Egyptian theme, complete with an under-pyramid entrance that anticipated the recent addition to the Louvre. The museum was unfortunately destroyed in the 1906 earthquake, and the DeYoung Museum is presently in its third incarnation. However, the two sphinxes that flank the original museum's entrance are still there. The Transamerica Pyramid is a landmark worldwide and is the most famous building in the city. But the Transamerica Pyramid neither houses the headquarters of the Transamerica Corporation, nor is it really a pyramid. Does it remind you of an obelisk? It's clearly not a true obelisk because it's not carved out of a single piece of granite, and the elevator core protrudes out of the sides of the structure. But we can see beyond this modern necessity to perceive its symbolism. The height of the 1972 structure is commonly cited at 853 feet, but this figure doesn't include the glass pyramidion cap and its mast. Adding the additional 11 feet brings the total up to 864 feet, making this the tallest obelisk in the world, far exceeding the Washington Monument's 555 feet. And 864 is a very interesting number indeed. As you learned at Stonehenge, the sun's diameter happens to be 864,000 miles. In addition, there are exactly 86,400 seconds in a day. By making the Transamerica Pyramid 864 feet high, the architect was clearly making it a solar symbol. The glass pyramidion cap contains a brilliant light that shines forth on July 4th. In addition to it being U.S. Independence Day, July 4th is also aphelion, the day the Earth is farthest from the Sun in its yearly cycle. The Transamerica Pyramid occupies a privileged site in the streets of San Francisco. It marks the endpoint of Columbus Avenue, which cuts across the street grid at a 40-degree angle. It's funny, but I recognized the significance of this 40-degree angle immediately because I'd just been hired by an architect to make a 3D model of his 9-sided atrium. This incredible synchronicity is what allowed me to make the next discovery. When I overlaid a 9-sided figure on the streets of San Francisco, here is what I found. The Transamerica Pyramid fits at this vertex. Columbus Avenue runs along this edge. The grid of streets matches this edge's 40-degree turn, and most significantly, it appears that Treasure Island was designed to fit this figure. Treasure Island was completed in 1937 in time for the Golden Gate International Exposition. The U.S. Navy controversially seized Treasure Island from the city of San Francisco during World War II. The Navy built the unusual star-shaped barracks in the approximate location of the tower that had been torn down after the Expo in 1937. The barracks also happened to be exactly at the midpoint of this edge of the diagram. While I'm not certain what the barracks symbolize, their shape and position does seem significant. Masonic author Albert Churchward says the hieroglyph of the risen sun god Horus looks like this. Also, 6 triangles in hieroglyphs means land of the spirits. In any case, the Navy base was recently decommissioned, and Treasure Island is now open to the public. I went there to find the barracks abandoned, but the strange symbolism remains, at least for a little while longer. There is currently a plan in the works to build a large mixed-use development on Treasure Island. The plan, scheduled to be completed in 2022, calls for a 650-foot tall sun tower to be constructed where the star-shaped barracks are today. Coincidentally, the single bus line that serves Treasure Island is Route 108. Again, in the Stonehenge segment, you learned why 108 symbolizes the moon. So in a few years you'll be able to ride the moon bus to the Sun Tower. In the Great Pyramid segment, we studied the Ennead, or pantheon of the 9 ancient Egyptian gods worshipped at Heliopolis, the city of the sun. When we layer the Ennead over the 9-sided figure, we see the correlation between the solar Transamerica pyramid and the phallic obelisk of Osiris. When I turned on the terrain layer in Google Earth, Telegraph Hill poked up through the Ennead layer, so I started researching Coit Tower. It was designed by Arthur Brown Jr. in 1933, after Brown designed 3 buildings in the Federal Triangle, which you'll remember figured prominently in the secret architecture of Washington, D.C. The octagonal top of Coit Tower fits within the octagram star, which you saw in Washington, D.C. Part 2, is a classic solar symbol. Do you think this is coincidental? There were 4 pairs of male and female gods in the oldest Egyptian creation myth, which predated the Ennead. The Ogdoad, as the 8 gods were known, was venerated in Hermopolis, the city of Hermes. Hermes was his Greek name, Mercury was his Roman one, while both names echo Thoth, source of the Egyptian wisdom. All of these names supposedly reference the same immortal figure who dispensed wisdom to humanity at different points in history. The subtle arcs along the sides of the structure suggest the interlocking circles of the Vesica Pisces, which represents the female genitals. Perhaps not surprisingly, and just like the Washington Monument, Coit Tower symbolizes the act of coitus, or the sacred union of Isis and Osiris. Hancock and Bivall have well documented in their book Talisman how Thoth's knowledge base was passed down through the Gnostics, Manichees, Bogomils, and Cathars. All were ruthlessly wiped out by the Catholic Church. Any remaining followers were then completely annihilated by the Inquisition. Thankfully, the popes weren't entirely successful in instituting a permanent Dark Age, because a century after the Inquisition, Cosimo de' Medici recovered the Corpus Hermetica, which was written in the 1st century in Alexandria. This older stream of Hermetic knowledge that escaped the burning of the Library of Alexandria actually fueled the Italian Renaissance, and then went underground in secret societies that persist to this day. The Golden Gate is neither golden, nor is it literally a gate. Instead, it's the Red Bridge built the same year as Treasure Island. Known throughout the world as an engineering marvel and symbol of San Francisco, it also represents the fulfillment of manifest destiny, the 19th century belief in the inexorable expansion of the United States from sea to shining sea. Here's a 19th century painting depicting the goddess Columbia leading settlers westward in an allegorical representation of manifest destiny. The Golden Gate is actually a concept from, you guessed it, ancient Egypt. Are you seeing the pattern here? They believed the Golden Gate was the threshold souls must pass after death on their way to the Duat. You might be interested they also spoke of a silver gate, guarded by Isis, the great mother of the sun. Souls passing through the silver gate on their journey from the divine source are incarnated upon the earth. I think Treasure Island represents the Silver Gate guarded by Isis. Its 7 sides certainly have her number. Perhaps the gift of incarnation itself is the treasure. The soul journeys westward like the American settler and passes over Alcatraz, one of the world's most famous prisons. This fits with the Cathar belief that the body is the prison of the soul. All the while angels, this is Angel Island, fly above in a higher dimension. Angel Island is a state park and has incomparable views of the bay. The adjacent peninsula is the town of Belvedere, one of the highest income places in the United States. There may be a few angel investors in Belvedere who take in the incredible scenery and its symbolism. After doing time upon the earth, the soul passes through the Golden Gate to meet its destiny in the Duat. Now we're way out there. Let's fly back to Giza and get back down to earth.